In fact, I find just about everything about this system to be offensive, folks. I really do. And let's just look at the system. I mean, what have we got here? What is humanity swimming in? What have we constructed for ourselves to keep us safe and to have a society? We've got a bunch of people who are kept stupid by their government. They're programmed and trained to not think very clearly. They're forced to undergo an education system which is simply an indoctrination system disguised as education, whereby critical thinking is eliminated and people are trained to always respect authority and to always allow themselves to be judged by their peers. They're taught that life is about competition rather than cooperation, and that you will be graded on how well you are able to regurgitate what the teachers tell you. They are taught never to think outside of the box, and they are taught what to think but never how to think, and then they are sent out into the world to become good little business drones and to compete and profit from everybody they can in order to make their financial mark in the world, and that is success, and that is how they will be measured in life. They're subject to an enormous amount of toxins introduced into their environment to keep them asleep and to keep their senses dulled. Things such as fluoride in the water, which inhibits brain function to an incredible degree, electromagnetic alpha waves coming from the television sets, which lull people into a trance-like state so they can be programmed by subliminal messages that are delivered to them via their television sets. They're programmed by advertising to believe that they want and desire things that they really don't need or want, things that don't really serve them at all. They're kept in a constant state of competition with each other, always believing that they need to measure themselves according to different social standards that are imposed upon them, or that they need to look a certain way or act a certain way or belong to a certain group of people in order to be an acceptable member of society. They're trained to support massive depopulation programs in the form of war and austerity measures and basically the raping of resources of other countries in order to support the first world. We have warehouses of food that are kept from the people. We have people starving because they simply cannot afford to pay the cost of being alive. The people are, of course, trained to never think about the reality of having to pay to be alive. It's just something that they take for granted because they're trained to believe that that's just the way things are. People work to destroy the oceans in order to pay to be alive. We see a massive amount of oil spills and all sorts of activity which is completely destroying the ocean environment, all at the whim of politicians and corporations who profit from these ventures. The people are enslaved to debt in order to pay off fictitious loans to banking cartels. We have governments that are supporting the destruction of groundwater in their countries in order to pay the bills to these banking cartels. The people are subject to GMO food, which is proven to cause sterility and massive defects in all animals that it's been tested on. We have an incredible amount of toxins being sprayed in the skies via aircraft, which is polluting all of the atmosphere on Earth and also causing particulates to appear in the ground, in the soil. We're seeing massive amounts of aluminium and strontium and all sorts of toxins appearing in our environment. The politicians we elect to positions of trust and responsibility are paying themselves an incredible amount of money while engaging in the most atrocious of activities. Many have been identified as pedophiles, many have been identified as having to do some of the most bizarre and sociopathic things in order to gain approval to become politicians. I point to David Cameron as an example, and him having to have sex with the head of a dead pig and burn a £50 note in front of a homeless person in order to join the elite club which controls politics in the UK. Virtually all of these governments support open war crimes and breaches of international law. None of the governments adhere to law themselves. All are responsible for atrocities against our own people, without exception. All governments are responsible of this. The people are subject to vaccination programs which interfere with their genetics and DNA compromise their immune systems to an extraordinary level. The people are kept constantly enslaved to debt and made to walk between the lines. They are highly regulated in everything they do. Even the world itself is off limits to most people unless they get a permit to use particular areas, i.e. a permit to fish, a permit to walk in the forest, a permit to go camping, a permit to do just about anything. We have healing plants outlawed by the government and mankind enslaved to a pharmaceutical industry which profits from the illness that is created by the outlawing of these plants, i.e. the outlawing of cannabis, and the huge profits to be made from the medical industry due to the sicknesses that can be prevented and cured were this plant not illegal. We have the elite few corporations who are in control of most of the destruction that goes on in the world, all living tax-exempt existences and having the governments kowtow to them at every turn, and the people are always made to pay the bills to cover the damage that is done by these corporations. And that's just the short list, folks. I mean, that's just what I can think of off the top of my head. There's lots more. There's a hell of a lot of things you can actually name and put on this list of what is wrong with the world and the sort of a situation that we are forced to live in at the hands of our governments. And it's not just the people who suffer, folks. The animals suffer as well. The incredible amount of damage that's been done to the animal kingdom through the wanton destruction of mankind and the factory farming industry, the gross cruelty of the factory farming industry just to put bacon on people's breakfast tables is absolutely unforgivable. And all of this is controlled by a very elite few at the top who control the banking cartels and the companies that these banking cartels control beneath them. There's a very few people who are actually doing all of this, ladies and gentlemen. It's just that they control the financial system, and so they are able to control all of the governments down the food chain, and the people are the ones who suffer, simply because the people have been trained to forget themselves. They've been trained to forget who and what they are. They've been trained to believe that corporations are real, that the government is real, and that all of these fictitious mechanisms we've put in